Coming behind someone like that, how do you do it?
It's going to be hard. As Ryan mentioned before, this guy, though, seems to have a great record so far. He does very well. He's a winning coach, and that's what Alabama fans want to see, is that they bring somebody in that potentially can fill these big shoes. Again, on the left side of your screen there, you see that charter plane pulling down there on the tarmac, getting ready to stop right now with the coach on the plane. Unclear who's on that plane with him, but we know he'll be getting out in just a moment. We're going to get it back out to Gladys. Gladys, you probably have a better vantage point than we do here.
Yeah, hey guys. As you can see, this plane has just stopped. The engine is turning off. This is the moment that this entire crowd has been waiting for. That entire crowd right behind this fence is there waiting for Alabama football's new head coach. There goes that door opening. This crowd is going crazy right now. Take a look at this, guys. There goes the athletic director heading into the plane. As you can see, they look quite excited here to welcome Coach Kalen DeBoer, Alabama's new head football coach.
Gladys,
listen to this crowd right now.
Yeah, Gladys, we just saw the athletic director, Greg Byrne, get on the plane. One of the things that I really appreciate about this moment, when you look through social media, a lot of people are saying a lot of different things. But right now, this is a warm welcome.
Absolutely. And I'm sure Greg Byrne there excited too, walking on the plane right now to debrief him, talk to him, and let him know that, hey, you already have a crowd of fans here ready to give you that warm welcome that Alabamians give people when they're excited.
I'm curious to know what the first thing he's going to say to the fans. We know that he's headed
Roll
to the
Tide, I bet.
We know that he's headed to the Malmore Athletic Center, but what is he going to say to the fans? Like, how is he going to rally, I guess, maybe the naysayers or the unsure people about his coaching style? How is he going to rally them to let them know that, hey, I realize that I'm stepping into big shoes to fill, tall shoulders to stand on, but I am committed to this. I'm committed to the legacy that is the Alabama football program.
Yeah, I mean, and he'll be meeting with the team, the players, very shortly. We know that's where Ryan Hennessy is right now on campus, waiting for him to arrive there. That's the most important thing, is that he's going to meet with the players right now to discuss, hey, this is how I plan to help carry on this legacy, this great team, the momentum that we've had. Maybe it was a tough last game, but they're going to come back and they're going to be that great Alabama team.
Just to piggyback off that, it's very important to build that rapport with the team. I mean, we know all the cameras are trying to get in. They're trying to see. Everybody's trying to hear what he's going to say. But, I mean, he needs to earn their trust. They need to earn his trust. They need to build that synergy and the camaraderie amongst each other.
And I'm sure, despite Nick Saban being retired, I'm sure he'll be there to help him along these first weeks or so. Let's get back out live to Gladys right now.
As you can see, all right, there's the athletic director, Greg Byrne. There is Alabama's new head football coach, Kalen DeBoer, stepping off of his in Tuscaloosa. This crowd obviously very excited, very happy to see Alabama's new head football coach. You can see everybody is embracing there after this decision was made earlier today. Listen to this crowd, guys. Feel this energy. This is that huge Alabama welcome. Everybody that I've spoken to here wanted him to feel this warm welcome when he got here to Tuscaloosa. From the second he gets off that plane, this is what they wanted. They wanted him to feel this welcome, and they wanted him to know that he is supported here, especially after Coach Saban's retirement that we learned of just on Wednesday. Everyone here wanted him to feel this Alabama love and for him to know that they support him and they look forward to what he is going to bring to this team and hopefully keep their, keep the that all these fans know Alabama is so heavy on, and that standard, like so many have told me this week, is winning. As you can see, everybody is greeting the new coach, DeBoer. Handshakes, smiles, a lot going on here.
Gladys,
Certainly a lot going on here.
We're watching it here with you live. The man of the hour, the man, the talk of the nation, the talk of the football world, Kalen DeBoer is on Alabama soil.
He sure is. Now. Right there to his left, Greg Byrne, and it looks like that's his family with him. Obviously his wife. It looks like he has, I would say, 2 daughters with him there. A lot of people on the plane with him, and look at that smile right there. You can tell he's so excited, finally greeting the fans there, walking towards them. I guess this is where they get in the car and they head over to the campus now.
It is. Life comes at you fast. I mean, when you think about not too long ago, unfortunately, he lost a championship title. A few weeks later, a couple weeks later, he's now the head coach of arguably the #1 program. But let's get back out to Gladys Bautista right now. Gladys, see if you can ask him a question.
All right, guys, look at him. He is passing right by us. Hey there, Kalen.
Look at how many fans are there. That's incredible. Just what a warm welcome. That's the welcome that you want when you are signing the dotted line and picking up your whole life to go lead an extraordinary team.
The welcome that you want, and also the welcome that you need. Nick Saban, that is who you're coming after.
It's a lot to digest.
It's a lot to digest. I mean, but he's going to take this program. He's going to do it his way. He's going to hopefully continue to build it up, make it even stronger, and that's what it's all about. Let's turn the channel a little bit and get you back out to Ryan Hennessy, sports director. He again is at the Mal Moore Athletic Complex. Ryan, they're coming your way.
Get that crowd ready.
Get them ready.
Hey, that sounded like fun. I didn't get to see that, but I heard it in my earpiece, and I don't think Alabama fans are disappointed in this hire. Kalen DeBoer officially in Tuscaloosa, heading to the football complex. We're right here at Mal Moore Athletic Facility, gearing up for their new head coach to arrive. A lot of fans are here as well, and they're excited for their new head coach. You could tell by the arrival at the airport. The players are coming in. Jalen Milroe, he just came in about a few minutes ago. So there's a lot of questions that these players have. Who is going to be their new head football coach? And a lot of answers are going to be happening tonight. A lot of questions on when this was going to be done. Greg Byrne said, give me 72 hours. And that's exactly what he needed. A little less, actually, because now they have a new head football coach, and his name is Kalen DeBoer. So let's learn more about Kalen DeBoer. From Sioux Falls, he played wide receiver there. He also coached there, and that's where he really had his coming out party as a head coach. 05 to 09, 3 NAIA national championships. That's impressive. That's what really made him propel to the Division I level. Had stops at Southern Illinois, Eastern Michigan, Fresno State, and then he became a head coach where he's won 104 games and he lost just 12. Guys, 104 games in just 12. Jarvis, Cherry, it's pretty good. I mean, you're taking over as the Alabama head coach, taking over from Nick Saban, so obviously a lot of pressure, but this guy's a winner. He knows how to win, and that's what he plans to do here in Tuscaloosa. So exciting stuff, definitely. About, I'd say, a 10-minute police escort, of course, drive over here, but we'll be here live getting the arrival. But going back to Nick Saban, what a career he's had and what shoes to fill, guys. I mean, it's just been unbelievable to see what he's done here in his 17 years. I've covered him personally for 6 straight years, 2 years in Dothan, and the rest here in Birmingham, and just an absolute class act. But a different kind of coach is now taking over the helm here at Alabama. An offensive coach. We've talked about the offense. Everyone knows about the offense that Kalen DeBoer has. So the big question is, how is Nick Saban and Terry Saban going to wrap their hands around this program and help out? They already announced that the press conference is going to be tomorrow for the media, officially at 1 o'clock. That's going to be at the stadium. So it's going to be interesting to see what he has to say. He's going to be speaking to the media, national media, local media. How does this coach interact? Because it's been so different, guys, for both teams, or for both coaches, and we're excited to see it. So Kalen DeBoer officially on his way here to Tuscaloosa, and he's in Tuscaloosa. He's on his way to the Malmore Athletics facility, and excitement's an understatement, guys. Malmore Athletic Facility, we got fans here. They're excited. Let me hear some fans.
Hey, Ryan.
Yeah, we got some fans
Ryan,
waiting.
I have a question for
Not
you.
in our atmosphere, but that seems like I don't know if you guys asked me a question. Sorry, you cut out.
We were going to ask you a question. I think both of us have one. I wanted to know, you've been out there all day. I know that his next stop is to go and talk with the team. Have you seen any of the players come in and out of there? Have you heard any, word from players there about this meeting and this next chapter for the football team?
Yeah, the players are arriving, scheduled 9 o'clock meeting. So right when Kalen DeBoer shows up here at the athletic facility, he's going to be meeting with the players. Jalen Milroe just walked in, which is huge. So a lot of questions on what this new chapter is going to look like, Sherry. And they're going to find out very quickly. And I'm interested to see what's going to happen with some of the Washington players. Some of them are going to the portal already. Are they following their coach here in Tuscaloosa? They were just in a national championship game. Really good players, and clearly really good players here as well. Isaiah Bond, we all know him from that Gravedigger play in the Iron Bowl. He put himself in the transfer portal today. So is he going to come back? Can DeBoer turn Isaiah Bond back to the Crimson Tide? We're going to have to wait and see, but we're standing by here, and it's
Ryan.
excitement for sure.
Yeah, Ryan, so I'm just saying that he just got in the car. They're pulling off now. My question was going to be similar to what Sherry asked. I wanted to know, what does it seem like the energy of the team is as they're arriving there to the facility? Like, do they seem happy? Do they seem nervous? Are they just head down, walking straight into the building? Like, what is it like?
I will say it's a lot of seriousness. I mean, you commit to a team when you're a player, and you commit to Nick Saban. And this is what these players did. They committed to a coach in Nick Saban, but there's a lot of excitement with what could be next. Jalen Milroe walked by, clearly the superstar. All the fans saw him, and he gave a roll tide as he walked in the door. So there's excitement. There's a lot of excitement by the players, I'm sure, but there's a lot of question as well. I'm sure they'll have pictures on social media of that first meeting. And like I said, tomorrow's when we find out a lot, because that press conference at 1 o'clock is going to show what kind of guy DeBoer is, and it should be interesting.
All right, Ron Hennessy in T-Town for us. He has been on top of this story for us. Thank you so much, Ron. We'll talk to you in a little bit, sir. Well, we want to get you back to the airport. As you expect, a crowd of people waiting for the arrival of Kalen DeBoer.
And we talked to several people about the excitement, just like you heard, for the new coach.
I just feel it's very important for us to come out and support this new coach. It's sad with Coach Saban leaving. I was born in 2002, and it's one of those things, he's all I've ever known, but I see pictures and videos from when he got here in 2007. I feel like we should give the new coach the same kind of welcome.
Do you think that, were you happy with this decision that the university made?
Yes, ma'am. I think it's one of the best hires that we could possibly make. It's one of those things where he's a proven winner everywhere he's gone. He just played the national championship game and lost to the team that we lost to. So I think we're in very good hands.
So obviously we're still waiting to hear from Coach DeBoer, and that should happen pretty soon.
Yeah, but we did some digging around and found an interview from this season. Now here's Coach talking about the kind of program he wants to run.
The coaches give the direction and show, the roadmap to success, and show what accountability looks like, show provide opportunities where we can build family amongst and a brotherhood amongst our team, but that in the end our program's brought to life because of the ownership that our guys have in how we do things and what we do.
So obviously replacing Nick Saban, that's no easy task. DeBoer has the resume to keep the Crimson Train on the tracks.
Yeah, but it won't be easy, as we keep mentioning, because in his 28 years of coaching, he's won 292 games. That's 7th best in college football history. He's won 7 national titles and 11 SEC championships.
So the Tide will have some key players coming back, but there are still some question marks. Jalen Milroe, he's back. Will he be the quarterback? We'll have to wait and see. The defense has some leaders returning as well, but they too will have to replace some starters. And just today, star receiver Isaiah Bond entered the the transfer portal, that is. Now, he has the option to return if he chooses.
Don't forget, DeBoer walks into an extremely tough 2024 schedule. The SEC is expanding next season, and they'll have games on the road against Wisconsin, Tennessee, LSU, and Oklahoma. And here at home, they'll get Georgia, Missouri, and Auburn. If you're old enough, then you've kind of been through this before. Alabama had to replace the legendary Paul Bear Bryant back in the early 80s.
Yeah, he led the Tide to 6 national titles and 13 SEC championships. When he called it a day, the Alabama coaching search landed on Ray Perkins. In 4 seasons, he would lead the Tide to a 32-15 record. That included 3 bowl wins, but 0 championships.
And then came Bill Curry, and he lasted 3 seasons, going 26-10. He was 1-2 in bowls and won a share of the SEC title in 1989, but he never beat Auburn. A brick through the window. Later, Curry split for Kentucky. The Tide wouldn't return to prominence until Gene Stallings took the job in 1990.
Yeah, certainly it's not going to be easy to step in and replace again Coach Nick Saban. DeBoer seems to be up to the challenge. In a statement, he says, quote, "Following Coach Saban is an honor, and he has been the standard for college football, and his success is unprecedented. I would not have left Washington for just any school. The chance to lead the football program at the University of Alabama is the opportunity of a lifetime."
And we're also hearing from Coach Saban for the first time. In a statement, he endorses DeBoer, saying, "I want nothing more than to see Alabama football continue to be successful, and Coach DeBoer is an outstanding choice to lead this program." He continues, Coach DeBoer has an excellent understanding of what it takes to be a successful head coach. So that's a lot coming from Nick Saban.
That is. Let's get back out to Sports Director Ron Hennessy. Ron, can you hear me?
Hey guys, welcome back in. We're waiting, counting down the minutes now until Kalen DeBoer shows up at the athletic facility. The players are inside. Now they just need their new head coach, and that's exactly what they're about to get. The meeting's set for around 9 o'clock here at Malmore, so it should be a great one. We're excited, and we're looking forward to it, guys.
Hey, Ryan, I want to ask you a question. How do you think DeBoer is going to do in the SEC?
Well, I mean, that's a great question, Jarvis. I mean, you can talk about how, good this season's been for him last year at Washington, but in the reality, you're going into the SEC. Is this a flavor of the year hire? I mean, he was just 2 years at Washington. He was excellent at Washington in those 2 years. You can hear they're making some Alabama chants right now, but first game of the year. Going against Georgia in the SEC is going to be the first SEC game for DeBoer. So welcome to the SEC. Welcome to college football in the South, Kalen DeBoer. That's your first one against Georgia and Kirby Smart.
Hey, Ryan, how does the Washington and Washington State rivalry compare to Alabama and Auburn?
Sherry, I don't even think that's a question. I think people watching right now are not going to compare Washington State to the Iron Bowl at all. But you got to look at what's happening. I mean, second-year head coach now in Hugh Freeze on the Plains. Now you got a new guy here. A whole new rivalry. And the nice thing about this for Kalen DeBoer, if you really look at the schedule, this game this year, the Iron Bowl, is going to be in Tuscaloosa. Anything can happen in Auburn. That's going to be nice for him to have that Iron Bowl in Tuscaloosa for the week that they play him, obviously the last week of the season. But a full SEC schedule right before the Iron Bowl. He has to travel to Oklahoma. So he's got his hands full, and the first step, though, is to meet these players in a few minutes and try to convince that he's the guy, because a lot of these guys can jump into the portal, so that's a concern.
Hey, Ryan, while you're there, what do you think the key points he's going to touch on, or what do you think he should touch on when he meet with the players and the press conference?
Say that again.
What do you think the key points he needs to touch on with the team, and what do you think he needs to say to the team and to the rest of the world when this press conference happens?
Well, I mean, Greg Byrne, the athletic director, is one of the best in the country. So he's not hiring a guy that he said, he wouldn't want his son. He literally said in the statement, "I wouldn't want my son to play for." And that says a lot. I mean, I think this guy is a proven winner. And I think that the players just need to know who their coach is. They have no idea. And a big argument that people have made on the other side of this hire is he's never been in the South before. But you know who's never been in the South before? Nick Saban before he came to LSU. So you got to give him some time to recruit, to meet these high school coaches. I'm friends with a lot of these high school coaches. Nick Saban had a really good relationship with the Mark Freemans and Thompson, with the Drew Gilmers that's now at Hoover, was at Clay Chalkville. So he's got to hit the recruiting trail hard and quick, and that's exactly what he's trying to do.
Hey, Ryan. We can hear the fans there behind you. Maybe you can show us, because there was a really big crowd at the airport. I'm curious to know how many fans, or even if some of those fans have shifted now over to
Sherry, you're cutting out, but I think you want to see the fans. That's what you said?
Yeah.
We're going to turn around and see the fans. What do you think, guys? We got fans out here. We're having fun. We're having a good time. The airport sounded pretty loud, but we could get loud here too.
Look how cute.
That is so precious.
What have
Yeah,
some
we're
of
having
those
fun
fans
here.
been
So,
saying? You've been hanging out with those fans for a while. Obviously, they're pretty excited. What have they had to say about the new coach?
I think anyone that's a Crimson Tide fan is just excited for the next chapter. I think, to be honest, even with us, there's a lot of questions on this new coach, but I think they're really looking forward to it. The fans said no matter who it is. I talked to one lady, and she said she's just excited for the future, and that's exactly what they're going to do. They're going to support. They're going to be there. You saw it at the airport. You're seeing it here. No matter who it is, they're excited. But it does help, guys, that they just saw this coach on Monday night in the national championship game.
Again, so life comes at you fast. Again, he didn't win that game, but now he's the head coach of the University of Alabama.
He certainly is.
I mean, is this like some type of fairy tale that's happening right now?
I think for him, it probably is. For him and his family. Again, if you're just joining us, we just watched the new Alabama coach just touch down at the airport in Tuscaloosa. Right now, they're on their way to the Malmore Athletic Facility because Coach DeBoer is planning to meet with the team there and debrief them, get to know them a little bit. I'm sure they have so many questions for him, as Ryan has said, just from getting to know who he is and meeting face to face.
I can only imagine how he's feeling right now in this moment. I mean, probably nervous, probably excited, probably a mixture of it all because he's stepping into a well-established program.
You know, I'm curious to know if he's ever even been here to the South before.
That is a very good question. I wonder what the first barbecue spot he's going to be recommended to go to.
Yeah, there's a lot of good ones, so he'll have plenty of options here for that. We want to take you back out to some sound. We spoke to some fans that were waiting at the airport today. Here's what they had to say.
Well, I think we should, show that we welcome our new coach and know that we're here for him. We've got his back. And just knowing that this crowd came out to support him, I think it's huge. I think it'll be a good reflection when he comes into town for the first time to see the support.
Do you think, obviously, I'm pretty sure, University of Washington culture, there's no culture like the Alabama football culture, none like it. Do you think that this just goes to show who you guys are as a people, who you are as people?
Hey, Ron, let's head back out to the athletic complex. We understand that DeBoer is pulling in now.
We're going to try to get him.
Hey, Ryan, can you hear us?
Let's
So the team, they're trying to get in position now because Kalen DeBoer, he is, if he's not pulling, is he pulling in now? We see some moving cars.
He's coming in a second, guys. I heard the sirens. Maybe a little false alarm here, but we're gearing up and we're excited and ready to go. But look at the fans, guys. That's the big thing. The turnout today is incredible. Such an emotional week it's been. Nick Saban stepping away. He was actually at the facility, guys, earlier today. He was at the facility yesterday as well. So really trying to be involved as much as he can while still taking a distance and taking a step back as the new head coach, Kalen DeBoer, takes over for the Crimson Tide. But yeah,
hey,
we're waiting for the arrival. Yeah, what's up?
Hey, Ron, what are your thoughts on Nick Saban still having an office at Bryant-Denny?
Say that again, Jarvis. I'm sorry.
What are your thoughts on Nick Saban having an office at Bryant-Denny, although a new head coach is coming in?
I think it's interesting. And because of that, I think it's because it's a new way of college football. Granted, it's Nick Saban, and he's, the greatest coach to ever do it. So, he deserves that. He deserves that office in Bryant-Denny. But it's the involvement of, what he's been doing. And he said he's going to stay in Tuscaloosa. He's going to be involved. And I think that's what the fans want. I think that's what everyone wants. And I'm interested to see the relationship between Coach Saban and Kalen DeBoer, because if Kalen DeBoer does it right, he has Saban very involved with NIL, with everything in general. I think that's very important, Jarvis, and I think fans agree with that as well.
Ryan, I mean, I may be stepping out a little too much here, but do you think it could be a possibility that he would be involved in future recruitment? I mean, obviously, the guy knows how to recruit players.
Well, I mean, yeah, I can't even imagine what it would be like if you had Nick Saban walk into your living room still to try to recruit to come to Alabama. I mean, that's a edge on itself, and it's something that I think Kalen DeBoer would be crazy not to do. Clearly, there's so many questions on how he's going to handle this. A lot of uncertainty in this building right now of, is he going to bring his guys over from Washington? You have Tommy Rees, who's a young, up-and-coming, people put him in the mix for potentially this job. 31 years old, a top offensive coordinator. Is he going to keep him? I mean, there's so many pieces that need to be kind of put together. And the first step's tonight, and it's a special night because Alabama has their new head football coach. And it's a unique name, but it's a name that I think fans are very excited about.
All right, Ryan, we'll come back to you in just a moment as you wait for the new coach to arrive on campus there. But in the meantime, we've said this before, if you're old enough, then you kind of have been through this. Alabama did have to replace legendary coach Paul Bryant back in the early 80s.
He did. Now, he led the Tide to 6 national titles and 13 SEC championships. When he called it a day, the Alabama coaching search landed on Ray Perkins. In 4 seasons, he would lead the Tide to a 32-15 record. That included 3 bowl wins and 0 championships.
And then came Bill Curry, and he lasted 3 seasons, going 26-10. He was 1-2 in bowls and won a share of the SEC title in 1989, but he never beat Auburn. A brick through the window later, Curry split for Kentucky. So the Tide would not return to prominence until Gene Stallings took over and took the job in 1990.
Yeah, certainly it's not going to be easy to step in and replace Coach Nick Saban. DeBoer seems to be up to the challenge. In a statement, he says, quote, "Following Coach Saban is an honor, and he has been the standard for college football, and his success is unprecedented. I would not have left Washington for just any school. The chance to lead the football program at the University of Alabama is the opportunity of a lifetime."
And so we're also hearing from Coach Saban. In a statement, he actually endorsed DeBoer, saying that I want nothing more than to see Alabama football continue to be successful, and Coach DeBoer is an outstanding choice to lead this program. He went on to say Coach DeBoer has an excellent understanding of what it takes to be a successful head coach. And that's interesting because I feel like to Nick Saban, to be a successful head coach is not just about winning, something he's talked about, something we've heard his wife say in statements. Actually, anybody that's worked with him, it's more for him than just winning the game. It's about teaching these kids to become men. They come in as boys, they leave as men, they learn life skills. So, you know, we keep saying about how this is the job of a lifetime and big shoes to fill, but I think he has a dual role here.
Yeah, it's not about who you play, but who you are. And at the end of the day, the life lessons that he's teaching the team, that is the most valuable part of it. Now, of course, the winning is a big part of it as well. Everyone wants to win.
If you're an Alabama fan, you say, no, the winning is number one.
Exactly. But when we talked with Eli Gold earlier this week, he says that if you don't learn anything from Nick Saban, basically that's on you.
Exactly.
So,
it couldn't have been said any better than that. So, and you look at all of the players that we've talked to, that we've interviewed. All right, let's get back out to Ryan. Coach is on the campus. Ryan?
All right, guys, here it is, the new head football coach coming through the doors right now. They took the back road a little bit, so there it is. We didn't have him come through the front doors as normal. So there it is, the head coach in the building. No official walk-in for Alabama. They took the side door, so there's live TV for you guys. Kalen DeBoer in the building, but he took the side entrance. So Alabama has a new head coach, and we will hear from him tomorrow starting at 1 o'clock. Back to you guys.
You know what, Ryan? While we still have you out there, Ryan, can you go talk to some of the fans that are out there? I'm just curious to hear what they have to say.
They're just chanting, "It's great to be from Alabama." Side entrance for Kalen DeBoer, but they are excited. They're thrilled. And Kalen DeBoer meeting with the team right now inside. The fans are excited. They are crowding the door trying to get pictures, seeing if he comes out, which It doesn't look like it. I mean, this is the first time he's walking in. Probably wants to meet his team for the first time. But yeah, it's exciting. They're cheering and they're looking forward to their new coach. Wish he would have came to the front door, guys. That would have been awesome.
But it looks like, from what we could see, it was the coach, his wife, his daughters, a couple of other people. Obviously, he wanted to greet the team, introduce them to his family, and just kind of get to know them quietly for a few minutes. But wow, that crowd there pushing up against the door to just catch a glimpse of the new coach. Incredible how many people were there.
I mean, if the meeting was set for 9 o'clock and the team had to be there on time, that was the best option to go through the back door because it's 9:12 now.
There you go. All right, well, we're going to have much more coming up at 10 o'clock on our newscast, so stay with us. Of course, you can get updates on air and on the WVTM 13 app. We'll see you in about 40 minutes. They're watching.
This is